On a stormy morning, a tired old man walked into a café, humiliated for forgetting his wallet. Everyone turned away, except one waitress who stepped forward with nothing more than a few crumpled bills and quiet courage. She had no idea that this simple act would change the course of her life in ways she could never imagine. The rain was falling hard outside, sliding down the windows of the cafe, making everything look blurry. Inside, people were busy with their coffees and small talk, enjoying the warmth while the storm carried on. Then the door opened and a man stepped in. His coat was worn, his shoes soaked, and his hair stuck to his forehead. He looked tired, older, like life had been unkind to him. He walked slowly to the counter and asked for a plain black coffee, his voice low. But when he reached into his pockets, his face went pale. His wallet wasn't there. He whispered an apology, hoping he could just sit until the rain stopped. Instead of kindness, the barista laughed at him, loud enough for everyone to hear, saying this wasn't a free shelter. People at nearby tables joined in, smirking, whispering, adding to the sting. The man's eyes dropped to the floor and he turned, ready to leave, carrying the weight of shame on his back. That's when Emma, the waitress, stepped forward. She pulled a few dollars from her pocket and placed them on the counter. She didn't make a speech, didn't look for praise. She simply paid for his coffee. In that moment, she gave back his dignity, showing everyone that kindness still mattered. Emma thought the moment would pass quietly, but it didn't. The very next morning, her manager called her into the cramped office that always smelled like burnt coffee. He folded his arms and told her she had embarrassed the cafe, made her coworker look bad, and made customers uncomfortable. She tried to explain that she had paid with her own money, but he waved it off, saying it wasn't her place. Back in the kitchen, whispers followed her. One coworker muttered that she was only playing the hero. Another joked that she probably thought the old man was a secret millionaire. Their laughter stung more than the manager's words, but she stayed silent, holding her ground. When her shift ended, she walked home in the drizzle to the small apartment she shared with her younger sister. The paint was peeling, the window leaked cold air, and her sister lay curled on the couch with a cough that never seemed to end. Emma warmed leftover soup, counted the $3 left in her wallet, and kissed her sister's forehead. Life was already heavy enough, yet she knew she would make the same choice again. For her, kindness was never a mistake, no matter the cost. A few days passed, and the cafe returned to its usual rhythm of clinking cups and low chatter. Emma moved between tables, carrying plates and offering polite smiles, though she could still feel the sting of the whispers around her. That morning, the bell above the door chimed, and a hush seemed to ripple through the room. A tall man walked in, his polished shoes clicking against the floor, his salt and pepper hair neatly combed, his suit pressed and flawless. He didn't head to the counter. Instead, he went straight to the seat by the window, the very same place where a soaked, humiliated man had once sat. Emma's heart skipped. Could it be? She approached cautiously, clutching the menu as if it could steady her. Before she could speak, he looked up and said softly, "I'm not here to order." "I only have one question. Why did you help me?" His eyes held the same weary depth she had seen that rainy day, and in that instant she knew. She sat across from him, her hands trembling. She told him about her mother collapsing years ago in a crowded market, how everyone passed by except one poor woman who knelt to help. "That moment stayed with me," Emma admitted. The man listened quietly, then leaned back. "My name is Charles," he said. "I have more wealth than I could ever spend, but I travel this way because I need to know who sees me when I have nothing to offer." The truth settled between them, heavy yet strangely freeing. He was the same man, only now stripped of disguise, and he had found in Emma the one thing money could never buy. 2 mornings later, as Emma was leaving for work, she found an envelope slipped under her door. Heavy ivory paper, her name written in careful strokes. Inside was a single card, embossed with the seal of the city's grandest hotel, inviting her to a private meeting. For a long time she just stood there, staring, her hands trembling. Why her? Why now? Part of her wanted to rip it up, convinced it was some elaborate trick. She wasn't the kind of person who belonged in places with chandeliers and marble floors. She was a waitress who counted coins at the end of each day. Yet another part of her couldn't ignore the chance. What if walking away meant closing the door on something rare, something that might never come again? That night, she lay awake, torn between fear of being humiliated and fear of missing the truth. Finally, she decided. 3 days later, wearing her best blouse and borrowed shoes, she stepped nervously into the hotel lounge. When Charles appeared, there was no grand gesture, no mention of wealth. Instead, he spoke gently, as though they were equals. He didn't ask her for anything but her honesty. And for the first time, Emma began to see this wasn't about money or romance at all. It was about being recognized without labels, human to human. What Emma thought would be a single meeting turned into an unexpected journey. Charles began inviting her along when he visited places most billionaires never set foot in. Small orphanages tucked behind crowded streets, shelters where men and women rebuilt fragile lives, food pantries where the line stretched around the block. To her surprise, he never arrived with fanfare. No cameras, no announcements. He simply showed up, rolled up his sleeves, and listened. Children rushed to him not because of what he gave them, but because he remembered their names, their birthdays, even their favorite games. Emma watched all of this with quiet amazement, realizing that his true wealth wasn't measured in dollars, but in the attention he gave so freely. Along the way, their conversations deepened. They spoke of books and music, of loss and survival, of what it meant to be truly seen. Emma found herself laughing again, not the polite kind of laugh she gave customers, but the kind that came from somewhere real. Slowly, she began to walk taller, to believe her voice mattered. For the first time in years, she wasn't just surviving. She was learning that dignity comes not from status, but from presence, and that a legacy isn't built on riches, but on the lives you choose to stand beside. One evening, after months of traveling and serving together, Charles handed Emma a simple folder. Inside were legal papers to establish a foundation in her name, fully funded, ready to change countless lives. For a moment she couldn't breathe. The weight of such a gift was overwhelming. Anyone else might have seen it as a dream come true, a chance to step into wealth and influence overnight. But Emma's heart told her something different. She closed the folder gently and met his gaze. "I'm honored," she said softly, "but I don't want to build something on your name, or even mine. I want to start small, in my own way, from the ground up." Charles studied her for a long moment before nodding, pride flickering in his eyes. Emma explained her vision of a café that belonged to everyone, where no one would feel shamed for being short on money, where the first cup was always free, and kindness was the only rule. It wasn't glamour, it wasn't power, but it was hers. And in choosing that path, she proved that her worth was never tied to what she could be given, but to what she was brave enough to create for herself. The rain was falling again, steady and cold, when the door to Emma's new cafe opened. A man stepped inside, older, dripping from the storm, his hands shaking as he looked around nervously. For a moment, the scene mirrored that morning long ago, the wet coat, the hesitation, the weight of shame. But this time everything was different. The barista started to speak, unsure of what to do, when Emma crossed the room and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "It's all right," she said, before turning to the man with a warm smile. "Come, sit by the window. What would you like today?" His voice wavered. "Just something hot, just a place to rest." Emma nodded. "Then you're in the right place. Here, the first cup is always on us." The man's eyes softened with relief, and he sat down, no longer invisible. Through the window, across the street, Charles stood quietly beneath a black umbrella. He didn't come inside, didn't wave, but his expression said enough: pride, gratitude, and farewell. Emma watched him for a moment, then turned back to her cafe, filled with laughter, music, and light. "Kindness doesn't need to be remembered," she whispered. "It only needs to be continued."